soon as I finish the protocol.
Question for his listening.
Okay. Welcome everyone. This is Carl Gorski at Western Region, and this is the what I'm calling all things tech on Weather Story, and it includes our standardization or methodology for posting weather stories that we'll be implementing here, and also in association with that, the CMS-like web pages that we'll be implementing. So I still see here a few people beeping on, but anyway, this is the ITO ESA Webmaster webinar. There'll be a MIC call later today, so but I have invited the MICs on this call, but it's basically a technically focused call for how we're going to implement several pieces of software and how we're going to manage the migration of our current web pages over to a CMS-like environment. So with that, let me take a quick roll call. Before I do, we're attempting to record this, and so please put your phones on mute, and also do not put your phones on hold, because if you do, we'll be recording your NOAA Weather Radio broadcast. So anyway, appreciate that, and so please, everybody put it on mute. Unfortunately, we have some construction in the building, and we've told those folks, please, hopefully to hold off on pounding. So you might hear some pounding in the background, but hopefully that will be at a minimum. And also, as a caveat, we had, in the middle of all this scheduling, we had our GoToMeeting licenses canceled, and a lot of the scheduling got all screwed up, and so there was a number of back and forth going on with the actual physical assigning numbers, et cetera, to this webinar, and unfortunately there probably was some errors. So hopefully the ones that are on the call had got the second email here today that had the correct link, and also we rescheduled this time for this one because the MICs needed to have the 2 o'clock slot. So I apologize for a lot of the glitchiness in trying to get this call scheduled, but I felt it was important to have the call, so we plowed ahead, and hopefully you'll find the information we're providing today helpful. So let's start with the roll call. Anybody from Billings?
Yeah, we're here.
Thank you. Boise?
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Okay. Thank you. Elko?
We're here.
Thank you. Eureka?
We are here.
Flagstaff?
Flagstaff, sir.
Okay. Glasgow?
We're here.
And anybody from Great Falls?
Great Falls here.
Vegas?
Las Vegas is here.
Thank you. Los Angeles?
Oxnard, Los Angeles.
Thank you. Medford?
Medford's here.
Okay, Missoula?
Missoula's here.
Thank you. Monterey?
Monterey is present.
Thank you. Pendleton?
Pendleton.
Phoenix?
We're here.
And Pocatello?
We are here.
Portland?
Portland's here.
Thank you. Reno?
Reno.
Sacramento?
Sacramento.
Salt Lake?
Salt Lake.
Thank you. San Diego?
We're here.
And San Joaquin Valley, Hanford? Seattle?
Seattle. Seattle.
And Spokane?
Spokane.
And Tucson?
Tucson.
Thank you.
Tucson.
Thank you. Anybody else that signed on that wants to be recognized? Okay, let's begin the recording then. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Before we really get into the meat of this webinar, and of course it's mostly open up for questions and allow you to ask questions on some of the technical folks that have been involved with this project. But I've been keeping the MICs briefed for the last couple months on what was transpiring, and I'll just kind of give you a quick rundown, and maybe that will give you a little bit more history on some of the reasons why we're doing some of the things that we're doing here today. First off, we got tasked, or I got tasked to look at how we can post and standardize posting weather stories a little easier than what we had currently the last couple of years. Quite a few number of different methodologies out there. Some of the support wasn't as good as what we have liked to have had. So that was the initiation of all of this, and that Vicki wanted more or less a standardization of the weather story posting, particularly to make it a little bit more efficient and a little bit more sustainable. So once we started looking at that, there was a lot of pieces to the puzzle that we had to resolve in order to accomplish that. So that involved where we were going to post it, how we were going to post it, how the web pages would be reacting, and a number of other things that we had to clean up, and also, how we were going to archive the weather stories. Before this project, there was no real archiving of the weather story, and as we all know, most of our products should be archived for a period of time. So all of these pieces started to have to be addressed as we, kind of had to develop a standard methodology for posting. So with that, one of the key elements was how the web was going to react, and in all of this, we were looking at migrating our home pages and our web pages to a CMS, Consolidated Web Farm environment. So the first thing that we had to understand was where in the scheme of things was Western Region and the Consolidated Web Farm and moving over to that environment. As we found out, as we started talking with the NIDS folks, we found that they had their hands full, and they would probably not get to our looking at us and moving us over for quite some time. Whenever I hear that, I usually double the time. So there was a significant time period left before they would even attempt to try to move us over into that environment. Plus, they got hammered with a lot of failures, so they were under a lot of pressure to solve other problems. So that gave me the idea that, well, let's not wait for the CMS to take us on. Also, in the meantime, the CMS environment was pretty much what Central Region wanted, and that didn't necessarily address some of our concerns and some of our philosophies. So with that also as a component, we felt that if we as a region had a consistent web presence, that we would have a lot more political clout to actually get what we wanted and how we wanted our web pages to work like. So with that, we took on trying to develop a CMS-like page close to what the CMS pages were, but yet incorporate some of what we wanted to function as as a holistic approach to how we were posting weather stories, etc. And I'll show you some examples here later. So that's a long-winded explanation, but there's a lot of outside factors coming into play that we either had little influence on or we were trying to influence as we were approaching some of these components and dealing with the weather story. So with that, the rest of the call, we're going to divide it up into basically two areas. The first area that we'll be talking about is the weather story component, and the second part is going to be the CMS-like WFO homepages. So the first part we're breaking up into the PowerPoint add-in, which Eric Buckman will be explaining a little bit about. The new headline generator, Randy Weatherly will talk to, and then a revised footer at our regional server. Todd Carter is going to be addressing that, and then some of our rsync methodologies, and Evelyn will be looking at that. And then we'll go to the talk a little bit about the weather story thumbnail and how that will react on our web pages. And then Ahmad will address the left-hand menu, and we'll finish up with the actual implementation time. First off, when we were looking at the weather story, we had to standardize because some of the offices were on 2003, some were on 2007, and some offices had or were thinking about migrating to 2010. And ultimately, we were going to move to 2010. So this provided impetus for us to basically say that we're going to standardize on 2010, and we needed to migrate the office environment over to the 2010. So therefore, the development team that was addressing the functionality of Weather Story could develop in a standard environment. So that was one of the reasons why you got an email saying that, you know, we've got to get onto the 2010 office environment, at least in the operational area. So all of these other software would play well with that. So let's any questions before we get more involved into the webinar? Okay. I'll turn it over to Eric, and he'll be talking. He's the prime developer of the PowerPoint add-in, along with Matt Williamson, which is no longer with the Weather Service, but we've kind of combined the two methodologies, and Eric, since he's the last man standing, so to speak, he's kind of the focal point here for the add-in. So, Eric, you want to kind of start addressing the PowerPoint add-in?
Sure. Thanks, Carl. Really quickly, I'll just give a base overview of the installation. I won't go into any details, but please feel free to ask any questions when I'm done. The package in the Western Region Mod Node 11003 contains just a few files. There's your PowerPoint add-in file. There's two files that the local office will need to configure, which is an INE file, and the other one's a registry file. Lastly, there are the mod note, latest mod notes in the package, and there's an example of what's a batch file, which you can do if you want to post-process after sending the weather story, if you want to launch some local EXE or something to that effect. So what you're going to want to do, or which office is going to want to do, is centralize the location of the solution, whether that's on the LDAD mount, some other mount you have in there for AWIPS, whatever the local office has. We tried to be really flexible in the original design of everything, but at the same time have some level of standardization. The INE file contains your paths. I've put in the INE file documentation as well as the Western Region mod note what's an optional property you want to configure and what's the required property you want to configure. Mainly you want to focus on your paths, making your paths, make sure they're syntactically correct, as well as you configure some of the fonts. Some of the stuff you're going to have, you want to configure with somebody afterwards if they don't like the size of the text font that you're typing in. The yellow verbiage you see on Carl's here, like step 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are all configurable, what you want to say in there. So if you don't like what we've put there, you can change it to whatever you'd like. The registry file is just, all that's in there is you're modifying a path in there to point to where you localized all the files. So again, this is a centrally administered solution. The files and everything are pointed to through PowerPoint to where you have them mounted. You're not installing the package local on each machine. That's actually the nice central administration part of this. So after you modify your registry file, whatever machine you want to install this on, you're going to have to merge that registry file with that machine. So you don't have to install this for every user. It's for every user on that machine. So obviously probably just your operation machines. Those will pull in the INE file wherever that PowerPoint add-in resides. So those two files have to be in the same directory. Once you do that, you're really ready to go. That's pretty much it. What we'll go over later on in the slides, Evan will go over the rsynching, how you move your files to the grid. It's not what the add-in does. The add-in simply collects information from the forecaster, renames the files, and sends them to kind of a staging point of where you want to, how you want to take it from there. A couple of notes that have come up in previous talks with people is that this will not modify any of your existing add-ins in PowerPoint. So if you have Camtasia or Articulate or something like that, whether for PowerPoint, it's not going to get in the way of any of those. And the second thing is that future software releases only require you to replace the centralized file. You don't have to go back to each machine and do the registry edit or anything like that. So it makes it very easy for administration. And that's all I have. Is there any questions?
So everything that you've just kind of covered as far as configuration and all that, that's all in that mod note. I haven't looked at it yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Once you get your INE file and your registry file set up, and if you want to test it, make sure all your paths and your template directories and everything open up. Once you're done, you're going to fly through the rest because all you're doing is a registry merge on each machine. So it'll go pretty quick, depending on what options you want to implement.
Hey, Eric, this is Ken in Medford. So where would you suggest that we install this centrally located file, like our Windows 2003 file server or something?
No, well, probably the best location was the same place that you have on your mod note 10006, which was the LDAD mount mod note.
Oh yeah.
So the temporary directory in that does not get rsynced. So
okay.
And so that would be a good location of placing it. And obviously you want to put that over on your LS3 too.
Okay.
And that is in the mod note.
All right, great, thanks.
This is Ahmed. As soon as you put it in that temp directory, I think it will sync to LS3.
Okay, I'm sorry. But that doesn't sync up to Gridiron. Is that correct?
Not unless the office sends it.
Okay, so that's the only thing I would advise people. I do have this in an e-file, is that if you decide that your Weather Story archive resides in a different directory, now that can point to your to a different server if you want. Nothing is server specific, so your paths could literally point to all sorts of mount points if you wanted them to. But if you do put your archive, or where you save where your weather stories get saved off, into a directory outside of temp and inside one of the other directories to get rsynced, all your archives are going to start archiving up to Gridiron, and we probably don't want to do that.
You know, maybe it would be easier to put it on your file server. I mean, we are not saying either, you know, we don't really suggest anything other than that. So file server might be better, centrally located.
Are UNC paths okay to specify in your INE file for your paths?
As long as the client, the user that's logged in, has access to that UNC path, that's correct. That's fine.
Okay, other questions for Eric? Okay, obviously as you get into the mod note, Eric is just a quick chat or email or phone call away. And Ahmad also is familiar with the mod node. But I think once people start using at least the forecaster side of the house, I think it's pretty slick. It does a lot more functionality than what we originally are doing, and will eventually evolve this plugin a little bit more as time goes on. So I think we've got a fairly powerful add-in for the forecasters to make their life a little easier. And as I said, it does start to archive the weather stories, which I haven't come up with a standard for length, but definitely probably the local archive, which is usually a 3-year period. So I'll be sending out some more guidance on how long an archive will have to do with this one.
Hey, Carl, real quick, this is Eric again. I appreciate any feedback anybody has, both positive, negative, after the mod note, whether they see areas of improvement, or I welcome all feedback.
Okay. Again, any other questions for Eric?
Yeah, Eric, have you had some other offices testing this throughout the region?
Yes, we have had Reno, Las Vegas, Pocatello. We're running on a version that we've had running since probably about November or December. That's an older version.
Oh, okay.
So but each office is unique. We put these solutions out. We try to be malleable like Play-Doh to a degree, but we get it into some place that we're not expecting, and something won't work. I mean, Evelyn brought up a great point about how she uses what's called the post-processing hook, and how she moves files and stuff. So hopefully we've been as flexible as we possibly could be, but again, there's always room for improvement. But as soon as we start spaghettiing out things, we kind of got to reel things back in at some point.
Okay, great. Thanks.
This is Bill in Glasgow. You mentioned the Weather for PowerPoint plugin. Do you know that it actually does work with PowerPoint 2010?
Yeah, that's correct.
Are you, excuse me, are you referring to the Weather for PowerPoint program?
Yeah, the Weather for PowerPoint, the commercial.
Yeah.
Like $30.
Last time that was brought up, they had not made it compatible with 2010.
Yeah.
Now, in the discussion and content, a number of offices had looked, some offices are using it, which is fine in the older versions, but, we've got some icons and we have some templates. Some of the offices have migrated away from Weather for PowerPoint just because they, can do it with other things. So that's up to a local office. I believe probably I think it's only one person that's, it's a garage type of outfit. But I think the intent is to make it compatible with 2010 eventually.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just something we use once in a while. So.
Right.
Carl, can I mention a couple more things?
Sure.
I want to make sure real quickly the plugin was originally designed on 2007, but we moved it to 2010. I have not bug tested it under 2007. I don't believe it'll work under that. It's not that it won't take much to work under there. It's just that's not what we're moving everyone to. And please make sure, even if you're running the 64-bit version of an operating system, install the 32-bit version of Office 2010, because the DLL calls for 64-bit are different than 32, and we'd have to retrofit it just to work for 64-bit. So again, 32-bit Office only.
We tested it under the 2007 version, and it does not work.
I think the mod note says this was designed for XP Service Pack 3. So basically it is 32-bit Office 2010. So for the offices that want to use it on Windows 7, we have to update this.
No, it works. I've tested under 7. It works fine on 7. Again, you have to run the 32-bit version.
Okay.
Of Office.
Okay, some great questions. Any other questions for Eric? Okay, going once, going twice.
I guess I have a really quick question, Carl.
Okay, go ahead.
And maybe this is covered somewhere else, so I apologize if that's the case. But if forecasters want to use weather for PowerPoint still, can they do that, or are we pretty much mandated to go with this new?
Okay. Yes, you're going to be mandated because eventually, as further on the CMS, we're going to be posting these a certain way, et cetera, and we want files, et cetera. So, yes, we're going to need to all migrate to this add-in and do everything more or less a standardized functionality because forecasters move from office to office, et cetera, and we need to basically do some standardization of methodologies. So.
Yeah, okay, just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, and I suspect that the guy's going to upgrade to the 2010 version. So.
Okay.
Eric, this is Tom and just to confirm, we have Windows 7 64-bit OS on all of our operational PCs. Are you saying that this will not be compatible with that? With the 64-bit OS, you are required to put the 64-bit Office version on there.
No. I run the 64-bit version of the OS, and I had Office 64-bit loaded. I uninstalled it and installed the 32-bit version. So no, you're not required to run it. It's all backwards compatible.
Okay, just check.
Running the 64-bit version of Office on a 32-bit OS, you're going to have problems. Or if you're Mike Pierre and run OS2 Warp on terminal server, then you're really in trouble.
Right, even if you can do that. Okay, thanks.
Okay, other questions? I don't want to rush this. This is all good.
Hey, Tom, I do have a question for you. We can take offline regarding your LDAD mount. Do you have your LDAD mounts working under that environment with that mod note? Do you know?
You put him on the spot, Eric.
Maybe he's got mute on.
Or reverse mute.
No worries. We'll take it offline.
Okay. Let's, of course, Eric is more than happy to discuss some of the variations that, the offices may be running into as they proceed with the mod note. So Eric's a great resource, and between the local folks and Eric and Ahmad, we should be able to work around any issues that might crop up as we install this add-in. Okay, the next area that we looked at in this process was the headline generator, and Randy's program, and through the course of this project, he did update it to 2.0, and we're in talks with Randy on some more capabilities of the headline generator. So headline generator is going to be around for some time, and it'll become more capable and more flexible as we're looking at posting, audio briefings, Facebook, whatever. So we want this as an integral part of what the forecaster is using in the way they're manipulating their WFO homepage. So let me turn this over to Randy.
Okay, thanks, Carl. I know Carl is going to cover this a little bit later, but just let me mention that if you create a weather story graphic and it's your main weather story graphic, you won't have to put a headline onto it. I think everybody probably already knows that, but it will automatically appear at the top of your home page. So the web headlines will only be used for other headlines, or if you wanted to put a headline to a second or third image. So then this is version 2, and version 2 of the headline generator software. The one new feature that everybody will probably want to have, or the reason to go to it, is the ordering of current headlines. That's actually been a long-standing request that I've had, so it's available now. Also, with the new way we're going to do the top portion of everybody's web page, and I think Carl's going to cover this as well, but I'll mention it now. You can only have 4 viewable headlines, and so that's why if you have more than 4 headlines, you probably will want to order them so that the most important ones are on your front page. Anything beyond 4 headlines will go to a secondary page. And so, like find us on Facebook or, Winter Weather Awareness Weeks, they can go on the secondary page, depending on how important they are. So by going to this version 2, you'll be able to order your headlines. And that feature comes along just by changing to version 2. I had 2 other requests from offices. Some offices do archive their headlines, and then they have a separate page so that their users can look at their archived headlines. Some offices put headlines in way ahead of an event, like a winter awareness week. Maybe they know it's going to start at the first month of November or the first week of November. You could put that in, 2 months ahead of time, and then when the time comes, it will appear on your as a headline. But the way the older version worked is it only had one button for editing headlines, and so all your archived headlines and all your future headlines and your current headlines were all in one big bunch, and it got difficult to manage all those. So with this version, what I've done is I've broken those out into 3 separate three separate pages. So you click on the Edit Current Headlines, you're only going to get headlines that are currently active. If you click on the Edit Archived Headlines, you're only going to get your archived, your past headlines, and the future one will just show you what's coming up in the future. So it makes it a little bit easier to manage all your headlines. The Edit Archived Headlines and the Edit Future Headline buttons don't have to appear on your page if you don't use those. Those are configurable, and there's a document that explains how to do that. So, it depends on your office if you want those or not. But by going to version 2, everybody will get the Order Current Headlines button, and you'll be able to go to a second page that allows you to order those headlines. I talked very fast, but I think I covered it all. Carl, did I miss anything, or does anybody have any questions?
Before I interject with questions, one thing that, we didn't show them on the PowerPoint add-in is the fact that it's configured so it doesn't necessarily have to compose your 3 weather story images. You can create any image, store it, and then use the headline generator to mark those images. So we have a lot more powerful combination between the add-in and the headline generator now. Okay, questions for Randy?
This is Paul in Phoenix. I have a question and a comment. The first question would be, on our current on the current headline area of our page, we have a link to the news archive, and I guess I haven't seen anything in the CMS like pages. Is there going to be a link to an archive of all these headlines somewhere?
There is. So the new top portion of the menu, there everybody will have a, at the very top it says, I can't remember, top news of the day. You're also going to be able to set a variable in a file. I'll give you instructions on how to do this, but you can set a variable. I think it's archive news equals 1. That will turn that on, and you will get then right next to the top of the news wording in that little banner will be an archive news link will appear for any site that wants to do that.
Okay,
and
that sounds good. So that should match up with what we have now.
It will be just a standardized page that will show whichever site all their archive news headlines by year, and you'll be able to go back and forth years. It looks very similar to what Billings has. I think I used Matt's code up in Billings for the template for that page.
Okay, yeah, and I worked with Matt. I think that came from down here.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, good.
Okay, and then my second comment would be is that when we move to these standardized headline things, something that we, at least locally, I lost to be able to do is there's times where you'd maybe be able to you'd like to put multiple links in a single headline, and obviously you can't do that now because one headline is the whole thing is just a anchor tag. And it'd be nice maybe in some future iteration that if you had like I hate to call it like an expert mode type thing or something, where you could just pass the HTML code itself so you can embed multiple links in a single headline.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, I could have like another place. Yeah, you could just put in, like you said, HTML code, and it would just put it right on the top. Okay.
Yeah, because it can waste a lot of space having multiple. Like here, if we want to do like our monthly climate summary, I usually headline for 2 different locations, and if I could do 2 links in one headline for those 2 locations, that saves us space, especially if we're getting locked down now to no more than 4 headlines.
Right, right. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, Paul.
Yeah, Ahmad has said that might cause us real heartburn when we really go to CMS. So we'll look into that, though. That's a good idea.
Any other questions, comments, complaints?
This is Joe in Las Vegas, Randy. Thanks for your work. And first, I have a couple of questions. First is, what do image 1, 2, and 3 represent specifically? If our weather story goes up and it's part of that flyout, then what is image 1 up that I'm seeing up there? And again, what do 2 and 3 then represent? Other weather stories or other weather graphics that we may want to put up?
That's a good question, Joe. You know, now that you mentioned that, I probably shouldn't have image 1 up there because that one is automatically displayed on the headline or on the top of your page.
Okay.
And so there's no reason to allow. I mean, you wouldn't want. Yeah, I should take that off. That's a good point.
Yeah.
The other images are actually there's an include file that everybody has in their dev include site ID directory, on Gridiron, and those what you link to and how many images you have up there is configurable, and so you could have more than just 2 or 3 or 4, whatever you decided to do, and so I'll make sure that there's good instructions on how to configure that for your site, because there are sites that do just general information type of images that aren't really a weather story.
Right, and that we're one of those, and we're really interested in that. So as long as it's configurable, that's kind of what we thought you were going with there.
Yeah, and in Eric's software, it's configurable. I mean, I think there's way more image slots than you would ever need, but he has it to where you can predefine certain images, and I think there's names. I forget exactly how that works. Eric makes a comment on that, but so you can make the 2 match. You in the PowerPoint add-in, you would say weather story 1, weather story 2, special story 1. I don't know, whatever, and then also configure this headline page with those same images. So it'd be easy for your forecaster to create an image, name it special story 1. Come to the web headline, click on that one, and send it.
Yeah, yeah, you're going exactly where we're going to. That's probably exactly how we're going to use it, or very similar to that.
Yeah, this is Carl. I don't really have. I guess if we had more time, I could pull up a real one. But this area here is a drop down, and there'll be the 3 screens for the main weather story. But you can configure any number of, I think, Eric, you said up to 25. So we'll be playing with this capability, and I'm sure offices will find new ways to combine using the add-in and what Randy's program can do.
Thank you, Carl. Before we leave my first question, Randy, it wasn't implying that you get rid of that image. Perhaps maybe just clarifying it, saying, current weather story. But it is a good bookkeeping thing. To let the forecasters know, hey, this is the current weather story image that's showing on our front page.
Okay, I could just make it to where there isn't a radio button there, so
there you go.
So they cannot select that.
There you go. Second question, I don't know if it's for you, Randy, or Carl, or who might want to address it, is because of the fact that we have weather stories going up there and other weather graphics that will be linked by headlines, is there any standardization for the templates? That is, we don't want to have to create different sets of PowerPoint templates to put a weather story up or a weather graphic up there. And I know there was supposed to be an overlay. The banner stuff that's on that is not under our control. So I guess my question is anybody addressing what needs to be on there as far as the slides or templates are concerned?
Are you referring to the actual interior?
Rain may be heavy at times. Chance of precipitation.
Okay. I should be charging for that.
I'm referring. That wasn't a. We're talking about rain. I just want you to know.
Yeah.
We're talking about the footer that overlays it, and so on the weather story page, there's a footer.
Yes.
That overlays the actual graphic that goes up, or the slide that goes up there. On our weather graphic page, or some other graphic that we're going to put up there, there won't be a footer. We're going to have to include some kind of footer in the slide itself.
Okay. On what we're looking at is, and we'll go a little bit further when we show the CMS page, but when Todd talks about the footer, here's a footer, and actually in real life you would not have this available to you at the time because this will be automatically appended to your weather story. Now, some of the pages have weather story caption. Are you talking about the weather story caption above?
Oh, I'm saying if I wanted to use that that's up there for my weather story.
This content here, interior.
Yeah. Then also use it for a weather graphic by changing it around.
Correct.
Okay, and I have to link it with Randy's headline generator.
Right.
The footer's not going to be there anymore, Carl, because it's
right.
So I don't want to have to create a whole new template. You know, I want to streamline this for my forecaster. So
right.
The footer will be there because if you link to it through the web headline software, it's going to automatically use the standard way of displaying it. The weather, I forget the name of the code that Todd has. Weatherstory.php.
It's makeimage.php.
Makeimage.php, which will stamp it with the time and which we'll put the footer on.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll set it up. That's how it works.
Okay. Perfect. That answers my question.
And just to clarify, this is Eric. Yeah, you have up to 25 image names, and whatever the image you're looking at here on Carl's screen here is the slide that when you launch the software, automatically creates the image files that's required and shows you display. And in Carl's drop-down, you decide what you want to basically name that file. You're not going to go through this list and it's going to revolve through different graphics. You're just saying, I want to do something with this graphic. Here's the name I want to give it. Here's the text, yada, yada.
This is Ahmed. I just want to emphasize and overemphasize active_screen 1, 2, and 3 must not be changed, because if it does and you send those images up, they won't get shown in the weather story.
Yeah, but the additional
ones, so the 22 other names are not reserved, but the first 3 are. And just be aware, if you change them in your INI config file and you send it up, it won't make it to the weather story interface. So the first 3 are reserved, but the other 22 are not. So the other 22, you're free to change them to what you want, but
right.
And I would avoid spaces with, I would, instead of having space, I would put underscore. That's the best strategy, even if, on the web it looks as if you have a space there. Thank you. Sorry, Eric.
Okay, other questions for Randy, or kind of the synergistic relationship between the PowerPoint add-in and the headline generator? Okay, and again, this is going to evolve a little bit as we go on, and there's going to be a version 2.1 and 2.2. So we'll let you know, and each one will have a little bit more capability and a little bit more configuration in them as time goes on. Okay, any last-minute questions for Randy? Okay. Now, we just screen captured this, and I've just did some, and we talked about this a little earlier. Right now, all of our offices have, I didn't count how many different ways they put or have footers in there, and they're all different. So quite a few offices have taken the liberty and some creativity to create different type of footers for their weather stories. Some are appended after they create the story. Others have to append afterwards, and the ones that append afterwards obviously cover up things on their, or they have to be careful with covering up information. So we took the position that not having the forecaster remember to put the issuance time or what have you manually doing any of this footers, but actually appending it as we're going to the web. So with that, this is not the end product, but after you've created your weather story and then you're shipping it up, the footer will be appended. So I want to, Todd, do you want to be a presenter, or do you want to just talk to that?
No, I can. Let me show a few things since it came up previously.
Okay, where are you? Let's see. Right there. Okay. Okay, I'm giving you control, Todd.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, there was some, as Carl noted, one of the things we're trying to do is take the intrusion of the footer away from a forecaster having to worry about it. So here's how things stand, in a lot of offices that implemented FXC or FXC-like functionality through PowerPoint. They would add a footer or superimpose a footer like this onto the bottom of the image. And when you click on the image, it renders a larger one with yet another footer. So what we're trying to do is mimic that functionality, but this time, instead of overlaying on the image like FXC does, and maybe some other offices' PowerPoint methods, what we're trying to do is append. So I know this looks really ugly, but if you look at the bottom of the image, this is the new code on Dev, weather story code, that actually appends. So what I've taken is the same Oxnard, Los Angeles Oxnard office's weather story as it stands, and then what I've done on Dev is I actually append the new footer. And you can see, hopefully it comes out, there's actually some additional clarity going through the web server method. So what's happening is all of this is being done on the web server side. So, you get a little more clarity. It looks a little bit better. It's still the same banner. I agree that there are probably some better ways to do it, but that will probably be addressed in later modifications. But functionality speaking, we can utilize this extra space for the forecaster to either add additional information or just not worry about some of their information being trumped on. So that's a benefit there. And then this is just an example of appending to, say, Pocatello, which I believe they're using some PowerPoint method and have their own banner. So you can kind of see, maybe some potential to improve the banner that we have now. But again, functionality speaking, we have that capability to have that banner added or appended. So there's no need to worry about in the PowerPoint method to add a banner. Here's another sample of a PowerPoint method, and I think some of these banners look really good, look better than what we're doing. But again, it will be readily apparent when we start trying to look at the look and feel that maybe there's some room for improvement. But still, I'm kind of impressed by the web server side, just using the basic PHP functions. This is basically an image that's overlaid or appended, and it looks pretty good. It looks a lot like the original image. Here's the larger version. Code's almost done, and I've got a couple tweaks to do, but this is the larger version of the image. If you actually clicked on a weather story, this is what it would potentially look like with some adjustments. I'll get rid of the black space on the bottom. And that's basically about it. So I guess going back to the original question, what if I use different images other than active screen 1 through 3? Well, right here up in the URL, hopefully you can see that, there's an iname argument you can add to the URL. And as long as you keep, I've restricted, and it's in the documentation, I believe, actually I'll put it in the script documentation, but I can add additional documentation if requested. I've restricted this to 20 or 25 characters, no spaces, keep it as simple as possible. As long as your file name and file is up there, using this iname argument, you can use makeimage.php to render any image you put up there, and it will have the banner appended to it. So that's basically about it. Are there any questions?
Hey, Todd, is that going live on the 21st as well?
It will go live on the 21st, so those offices, I'll defer to Carl on some of this. If we do decide to go live on the 21st, any office that hasn't gone to the PowerPoint method will have a double banner if we do it that way. So I guess we all need to be on board by that time.
Hey, Carl?
Yes.
Does that mean we cannot do this prior to the 21st, so everybody's starting on the same day? Is that correct?
I have not worked out all the numerations that the offices will be dealing with. So,
if you do it prior to the 21st, if I may, Carl, if you do it prior to the 21st, you won't have a banner.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a huge deal or not. You won't have the branding, or I'm sorry, the branding in the footer for 3-4 weeks at most.
I guess, and I'm just thinking out loud now, is if you've already got a banner inserted into your image, I guess that would substitute for the banner. I guess you could do it that way. And send it out. But
Can we do testing on the Deep server, though?
yeah, right. Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, but the turnkey is the 21st.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
May 21st or June 21st?
Vicki would have liked to May 21st, but I whittled her down to June. So June 21st.
I have a question for you. I think either for Todd or for Carl. This is Rick. As you're showing the Pocatello graphic there, we don't need 2 banners. We're going standard, and we want to play along with the standard look. So is there something we need to do to remove our little special thing, or will that just be automatically taken care of for us?
Well, Eric probably has more to say about it. If you implement Eric's PowerPoint methodology, there should be no banner there. So I guess it goes to, if you do that now and you use the current weather story code, on www, then you won't have a banner for a period of time. Or you won't have a footer, I should say, for a period of time.
Real quickly, not to add more, this is Eric. I don't prevent anybody from adding a banner within their PowerPoint presentation.
That would be just part of the graphic itself that you manually actually, paste in there.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. That is just treated as part of the information you created in the PowerPoint image. If you have other scripts or anything that does like whiz-bang stuff that we don't know about that appends something after the forecaster, creates the image, then, then you're going to have the issues.
Okay. We'll take care of that on our end then.
Now, the question I have, and you probably covered it, Todd, you have a timestamp here. That goes away, doesn't it? That's an FXC. Oh, excuse me. That's an FXC function right now, and that should go away. Is that correct? I think you might be on mute, Todd.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I am mute. This timestamp right here, because I am putting the current concept of the footer stamp already has a timestamp in it, and we'd just be repeating information if I did something similar up here.
Right.
So I was kind of trying to get rid of that.
Yeah.
If anybody has strong issues, then I guess take it up with Carl and you decide what you want to do. Anything's possible. And even the format of this date string is, up for grabs. But that's the way it is right now.
But that will go away when we settle in on June 21, right?
This right here was the concept of trying to take care of the last updated string.
Right.
But the last updated string up here would go away.
Yeah. Okay. Correct. Okay. Other questions for Todd? Okay. With us doing that sort of functionality outside of the PowerPoint itself, I think that gives us a little bit more, I wouldn't say control, but more flexibility as we look at new ways to create graphical images and use them in different types of environments for future product development. So I think that gives us some more flexibility in the future. So that was one of the other driving force to kind of remove it from the actual image or the actual manipulation in PowerPoint itself. Okay.
So you can take back control if you want, Carl.
Okay. Everybody seeing my screen again?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. This next topic, as our technical group proceeded to look at the different components that we needed to address, was the R-syncing, and Virgil had created a document that we posted, kind of the three variations of R-syncing that we felt was legitimate and stable. If it was up to me, I would have said we needed to kind of standardize on one, but there's too much going on, I guess, at the local offices to be that heavy-handed. So anyway, he created a document, and Evelyn's going to talk on this part. I know maybe Virgil joined in, but Evelyn is going to kind of address a little bit of the philosophy behind that. So, Evelyn, you want to say a few words?
Okay. There's three options in the document, and the first option uses, and they all use the Samba drive. So it's important that the Samba drives from LS1 are mounted on the PCs. But the first option uses the LDAT info.txt file on LS1, and it just listens for looking for a file to be dropped in a specific directory, and then once it finds it there, it'll run a pre-processed FXC script or a script. And in the script, you can do your tagging, or you can put your footers on, and then rsync it up to Gridiron. And there's two versions of that LDAT option. There's one that just uses it on LS1, and then there's also one that it'll put it in data incoming and send it into AWIPS, and then PX2 picks it up through its LDAT processing and fires off the script to LS1 to rsync it. And Virgil goes into a lot of detail in the documentation on those options. The second option is about the same, but it uses the dissemination server on LS1. And again, it just looks for a file to be dropped in data LDAT dissemination, and then runs a script. Once it picks up that file that's in there, runs a script and does what the script needs to, and then rsyncs it up. The third option that's in that file is for those that remember the old rsync box that we had a couple of years ago. There was a FAMD daemon that ran, and it basically just sat there and watched and monitored directories and waited for files that changed in that directory and then took some action. And that's kind of outlined in the documentation too, of setting up the FAMD and using it as your rsync. So you drop the file in the directory, and then FAMD takes off and runs the rsync processing. So that's all in the documentation that's under the Weather Story Project's rsync folder. Any questions?
This is Paul in Phoenix. I have a question about option 1 you outlined. I guess I'm confused why we need different options. Like that option 1, you said you could fire off different, you could have it do different FXC things, like put your footer on there, but wouldn't that completely step on what was just outlined?
Well, yeah,
descripting.
This was before, I mean, right now the footer is not being put on up at Region, and so until June 21st, and then the footer was kind of added during this whole process that we went through, is at where we were going to do the footer, and it came at the end. We finally decided that it should be done at the region level. So this, whatever your script does, I mean, you can have it archive, you can have it move, you can have it copy. My script here actually automatically posts to Facebook. So whatever your process script does can rsync and do some other things that if you want it to do.
I guess I'm a little confused too on the archiving. Where is that going to be taking place? Because Carl's been talking about archiving up to possibly 3 years. I mean, are we supposed to be doing that locally? Is that something that's happening on the regional servers?
That's happening locally, and that's built into the PowerPoint add-in. There's a directory in the INI file that you specify where you want your archive files to go.
Okay, so archiving at this rsync process, at this rsync step would be redundant there also.
You can, well, the point is for the script, you can do anything in that script. It's just a script, but basically my script does some copying to other directories, and then it rsyncs up to Gridiron and CMS, and then it posts to Facebook.
Okay, I guess that's the one thing extra we probably do too, is with the Facebook. Then there's also the auto posting you can do in the NWS chat, which is probably what you're doing that through, I'm guessing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
So it was just the document just kind of outlines 3 different ways, and really, in effect, it's all the same. It's just which process you're more comfortable using, whether you're comfortable using the LDAT info and a trigger, or if you're comfortable using the dissemination server and setting it up, or if you want to attempt to set up the FAMD daemon to monitor the directory.
Yeah, Evelyn, also, it's Eric. We were UU encoding the weather stories and also sending emails out. So just, like you said, I like that you give Duff options, or trying to open up everybody's ideas, what they could do with it.
Is it? I like to post into Facebook. I don't know how to do that, and also documenting posting to NWS chat might be a good addition to documentation, or not.
Well, I went through Daryl Hertzman, the NWS chat focal point, and each site has its own unique ID for posting to NWS bot. So you'd have to get with him and find out what your NWS ID is.
This is Ahmed. I think it might be better if the question came through Darren Jones instead of going to Daryl Hertzman, because he's quite busy. I mean, all of us are busy, but I think it's better to go through Darren if Carl has an opinion on this.
You know, the posting to Facebook came up on, I think, the last MIC briefing or so, which was a great idea, and that perked everybody's interest. We did a little bit of initial research on it. I think after the dust settles a little bit, you know, I want the technical team to kind of look at that again and pretty much suggest a standard way of doing that. There is some issues with security, but I think we can work around some of that, and obviously Evelyn's probably done some initial work. So that's on our plate, and yeah, obviously if other offices have ideas, please let us know, and we can kind of test or look at those ideas. But yeah, that's definitely something we want to accomplish here in the not too distant future. Other questions for Evelyn? We threw this one in just because in discussions with the group, you know, there was a little bit of variability and stuff, and I tasked Virgil to make sure that, you know, we kind of have, you know, a couple of, you know, I wouldn't say blessed, but at least some, you know, documentation saying here are at least three rsync methodologies. If you're doing some moving of stuff around and wanting to get things rsync, that these are the ones that are probably work and aren't too, you know, off in left field that might, you know, mess something up in the future. So anyway, just something to look at as we kind of consolidate and standardize some of these methodologies. So if you're doing something else other than those three, you might want to look at that and then talk to some folks whether that's going to be legitimate in the future. Okay, other questions? Okay, that kind of final, you know, it's the final part of the kind of PowerPoint weather story portion. I'd like to, you know, kind of talk a little bit about the CMS-like WFO homepages. I know we are in the middle of the CMS conversion. Lots of folks did a lot of work on getting their pages CMS ready, etc. You know, obviously a lot of that work's not going to go to waste, but we have this interim time period that we've got to do something. You know, Ahmad's doing a lot of the work so it doesn't fall on you guys, but we do have to do some standardization to make all this work. Some of the things we've already covered. Top news story of the day is the office's area. They have control over that, of what they're posting. But in CMS, there's a limit of 4. So we decided that we should also implement that kind of restriction now, because it will be in the future. What will happen again is, you know, if you have 4 headlines, that's fine. 4 headlines will show up. If you have the 5th headline, that 4th headline will say additional headlines. And then you click that, you go to another page, and it shows all the headlines that you have, not only the first 3, but, you know, the first 3 and the first 5 or 10 or whatever that you have. That means that you need to order them, because I don't want to see, if you're in the middle of a severe weather event and you've got a weather story, and you have all sorts of stuff you probably don't want, and you have all sorts of important headlines, probably it behooves the forecaster to say, you know, I don't need a spotter talk that's going to come up 2 weeks from now as being one of my top headlines. So they can easily manipulate that, push it down to headline 5, and put your more important headlines up front to where a customer would see those more important headlines up in the top area. So that's one area that's coming along, so we're going to implement that in the CMS-like homepage area. And if the forecasters is just going to have to get used to it, because in the future world, that's what's going to happen. Unlike CMS, and this is what we're going to be lobbying and you know, kind of going into the CMS world, is these two functions here are very popular with our customers, and that is not in CMS, and we're going to be kind of saying that we want these areas attached to our CMS page and go with that. Another area here is none of the CMS offices have event-driven weather stories. When you have a weather story, it should be important, so we want it visible. There's a few different types of philosophies that are out there. Currently, we chose that the weather story thumbnail would show up pretty much like a Pocatello environment with the drop-down of the text here. That has to be inserted, so we're looking at, we've devised ways to insert this thumbnail as you post it, as it automatically is posted to our pages. Since this is event-driven, it's important. We have to have it posted. It'll be posted in the same way for all of our offices. So that's the way, at least philosophically, we took. Whether it's the best, there's debate on different philosophies, but this is the way we chose for this time being. So it'll be posted here, and you click on it, and it'll go to the page, etc. Then the other component in this.
Carl, really quick before you move on from that.
Sure.
On that, the weather story thumbnail, is it not there when there's no weather story?
That's correct. It will not show up.
It's just sort of white space or whatever.
That's correct. We are looking at ways of shrinking this up and how to deal with this vacant space here, since you know, it's kind of locked in. So we are, hopefully by June 21, able to handle this area in here a little bit better than what is functioning, what you'll see on the dev at the moment. That's one of the reasons why we're looking at the way we're handling the headlines and the add-in, is offices sometimes don't want a weather story, but they want what happens during an El Nino event or their recent maybe a graphical presentation. They would put a headline here and then link it to a graphical product. So, but the headline, if you're identifying it as a weather story, it'll automatically, once you send it to us, it'll automatically be posted on your web page.
Okay, very cool. Thank you.
Again, Carl, this is Randy.
Yeah.
Active screen 1
yes.
goes up there.
Yeah.
If you don't have one that's active screen 1, then it won't show up at all.
And the add-in, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, you can manipulate the naming of older images, so you can actually make that maybe an older image the active one or weather story 1. Is that correct? You can rename the images?
Only if you bring them up from the archive.
Yeah.
In the plugin, you can open up our previous archive slides and resend them as active story 1, even if you named them something else like a PNS or something.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Question?
Yeah, Carl, this is Mark in Oxnard. I don't know if it's too late to change this, but is there a way that if there are no headlines, that banner top news of the day doesn't show up, so it's just an empty white space?
No, in CMS, that's the way it works too. So it'll just be, we want to have that shrunk up so there's just nothing, no white space there. That's our goal.
So, can it say no news or anything? I mean, it kind of leaves people hanging.
You can make a headline, I guess.
So here's an artist question, so to speak, is if we do that and bring that up, and you do have a weather story, you bring up the puck to overlay the header. So and that looks out of place. So I guess there's the kind of a catch-22 or something we'd have to solve.
But we'll definitely take that into consideration when we're looking at stuff. But right now, the CMS area, or if we move to CMS, it's still there.
This is Ahmed. Mark, maybe when there are no news to be displayed, maybe we could programmatically say no, none available today, or no stories, just a text that people could not click on.
Ahmad, that's actually would be one way to do it. It would work. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as Carl said, we'll take that into consideration.
Yeah.
What do you think, Randy?
That's all doable. All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Before I turn it over to Ahmed on the left-hand menu, which is probably the most controversial probably of the call, but this area here is a tab that we put in. It's not in CMS, and we'll be lobbying for that. And that's configurable. Ahmad's going to be sending out some instructions, or he'll change it via Office. But there are offices that have like Monsoon Page or Howard Hansen, something that's very hot topic, etc. This is configurable, and Ahmad will make some appropriate changes, I guess, for each office, what they want. They can still have it local and have a static page that they want to always go to, or we can change, something that's more visible. So we do have some flexibility for the offices, particularly for those hot topic areas that are kind of locked in for some time. So any questions on kind of those 4 areas that we're dealing with? And like I said, we're going to go and be pretty adamant that we want, when we go to CMS, these functionalities in there, which is not under the CMS environment.
Carl had a question on the, I've heard there's a national effort to redesign the weather service web experience, and I don't know where that is, or do you have any idea when that might be rolled out?
That still won't impact this page.
Okay.
It's mostly the national page that they've been dealing with, so if it is, it'll be long after I retire, and I don't expect to retire in the too distant future. So headquarters doesn't move very fast. Okay, other questions before we go on to the left-hand menu? Okay, Ahmad, take it away.
Okay. Basically, I would like to be short. The word local can be changed to a maximum of 2 words. So whatever the site decides to name this word from local to something else, you just let me know. And the best way that you would, that I would advise for your site to let me know what you want this to go to is to put it in this helper file, which is an Excel file found in this SharePoint directory. The SharePoint directory contains 3 templates that Western Region MSD has produced. The helper file is just intended to help the sites to send me the links that they would like to see over on the left menu. So if you want to make some changes to this local, just let me know. Otherwise, local will just go to your main or home page, So the left menu, as you can see, is based on the templates that MSD has produced on May 17th. On May 17th, I also changed the left menu for every site on Dev. based on the template. So if you see item 1, WFO updates, that's the name and the link that you can change. And if you see item 1, WFO updates, or item 2, WFO updates, these are the two possible ones. If you do not want to use any of them, the helper file that you will fill out, just remove those two items from your Excel file and send it my way, and it won't show up on your page after I've done updating your portion. Again, I rely on the templates that MSD has produced here. The helper Excel file is just to help me get it done faster.
The templates are, one is for marine offices and the other is for the interior offices. So there's just a couple of minor little changes between the two. And so that's basically both the marine offices and the interior offices have the same number of categories and subcategories. It's just that, the interior offices didn't have a marine. There were some questions that were asked. Why does an interior office have a hurricane center link? That's more or less a standard link. The folks back in National say that's one of the most popular links during hurricane season, no matter what part of the country. So we're basically leaving that in, even though maybe Glasgow, Montana, might not have too many times they would use it, but still, that's kind of the locked-in one that we didn't play with. So, but the marine offices will have the marine link, and the interior offices won't. And the interior offices will have two options instead of one, as the marine offices have. So the interiors might have more use for avalanche or some other more interior type of products. If you're running out of space and you want lots of links, maybe that optional link goes to a jump page. So that's what most of the offices are doing.
Also, what Carl mentioned, two templates in the left-hand menu portion. There is actually a third template from CWSU for CWSU's use. It was last updated on May 12th. If you go to dev.wrhnor.gov/ZSE, you will probably see their left menu if you wanted to look at a CWSU left menu. And and Gar Nelson was kind enough to send me his Excel file yesterday, and right before I left, I put it in on their dev. So if you want to see the dev.wrhnor.gov/GGW, then you can see their left menu based on the Excel file they sent me.
So that'll give you a good example of how, things might work out for you. So,
questions?
Hey, Ahmad, this is Matt Billings. I forgot to ask how the climate pages will work, because right now we have to edit those separately in a different web thing.
The climate, are you talking about the
climate's pretty
content management system portion of it?
Yeah. Do we have to edit that to match the new way we're going to?
I thought that was pretty much locked in.
Right now, we have, anytime we make a local change here, we have to update the climate part to match, because they're on separate databases.
Okay. Well, we'll make a note to make sure that we're working according to Hoyle, so to speak.
Because, we need to coordinate with the climate folks here.
Yeah, I had the climate folks look at that, and they didn't seem to have any issues. So.
Well, I'm talking about when you click on local climate, the left-hand menu comes from a completely different spot. That's what I'm talking about. Because right now we have to update even if we change something out of the climate section, you have to update this other page to make the change on the climate page left-hand menu as well.
Okay. We'll look into that, Matt, and provide the appropriate, information if we need to. Okay, good question.
Hey, Ma, this is Paul in Phoenix. I just want to be clear. So each office is going to save this Excel file with whatever URLs we want, and then send that Excel file to you, and you will manually make those changes?
That is correct. I will take your Excel file, which I am hoping you will read in conjunction with the templates that MST has provided in that link.
The template just shows all the fixed links that you don't, you basically leave. So we just wanted to provide those. At least you know where the links actually were going towards. So the template just is the outline, and then it shows which subcategory you actually have to work on.
Okay, I just up until this point I had been unclear as to exactly how this was happening. I thought maybe I was missing something. There's a CMS page we were going through. I think it said this was it's just an Excel file that you're handling.
Right, and I might have on the last MIC call kind of maybe led some people with some wrong impressions. So I apologize on that.
Okay, thank you.
Carl, it's Tanya in Glasgow.
Yes.
I had a question and a comment. The question was that we noticed that the graphical forecasts disappeared from the left-hand menu. I know they're up in the tab up above, but is that intentional or an oversight, perhaps?
It's trying to shrink down that left-hand menu.
Okay. And then the comment that we were wondering is one of the things we do have on the left side that we're not going to have room for right now is MODIS satellite imagery. I'm wondering if Western Region would be willing to update the satellite page to include a link to that.
Send us a request.
Okay, we'll do that.
And the intent was, trying to, at least on the left-hand menu, get fairly close, well, real close, to what the CMS, standard will be. There's still some variability, and again, I'm going back to if I have all the offices with the standard, I can make sure that I have a bigger club when I go towards, when I have to deal with the NITS folks.
Hey guys, this is Ryan in Oxnard. Ahmad, I had a question. You want us to send that Excel file, but I also kind of stumbled upon the little link you have at the very bottom. It's like from like AG DB2 or something, and it sends you to a list where you can actually edit the links on the fly. It seems like it would be a lot easier for you if we did it that way as opposed to sending you an Excel file and you have to do everybody's. I don't know if that was just something that was there for your purpose or if that's another way to do it.
I was trying to make it easier for the sites to change their links, but I realized as well that if sites change things around, then it will be, in the long run, more difficult for me. So, in a short span of time, I went against my own first strategy. And I said, if I ask for an Excel file, it will make the office think a little bit more about the links that they want to go in there, and then it would be perhaps a little easier to get that into the left menu. So I could be wrong, but right now this is what what I think I can do to help the offices towards this consolidation.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure. I thought the interface was pretty slick and it's kind of cool, but Excel works as well. So I just wanted to clarify on that. And then the second thing Mark wanted to ask is just about the Facebook link. I guess it's down at the bottom now, and I know you guys wanted to match CMS, but just a question about that, if you wanted to address that.
Yeah, that was the main reason. I wanted to look and feel close to CMS that I could, and we're basically providing, doing all the link work, so you don't have to do any of that type of recreation. So, again, I think if you want to advertise Facebook and stuff, there's a number of different ways to do that in the headline, et cetera, et cetera. And I know even Keith Meyer had a brief, audio briefing or video briefing he did for upcoming WED event, and he plugged his Facebook at the end. So you can definitely find different ways to get that into other products and services.
All right, Carl. If there's any way to put a vote in for it, I vote for kind of getting it up top. So.
Okay.
Is that Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Other questions? It's a long call, but all good questions. Okay. Target date's June 21, and I haven't set a time yet, but probably mid-morning sometime we'll probably move things over, or we'll strategize on the best time and let you know well ahead of time on that. Before we end the call, I would like to, and I was remiss on naming the folks on the Weather Story technical group, but obviously most of them were talking, but Eric Buckman from Sacramento was on the team, Virgil from Billings, Randy Weatherly, Salt Lake, Evelyn from Tucson, Josh Smith from Boise, obviously Ahmad, Todd Carter from Spokane, Todd Morris down in Oxnard, and Roger Lamoni, and also Matt Williamson while he was still with us, and also Matt Solom from Billings. So they've been put a lot of hours in and tons of time besides their own work. So I extend a special thank you for all of those guys and putting a lot of hard work in, and hopefully will make life a little easier for you during this transition. So any last minute questions before Ahmad has one more thing, I guess.
Just wanted to say that email's mod note 11-003 has been entered, and we are probably seeking to for the sites to say they have completed the mod notes. So just make sure that once you have finished the implementation, then you fill out the emails so that we know you have completed the notes.
Okay. Are there any critical last questions, or we can take it offline, and either I or any of the group can address some additional questions you might have. Okay, it was a long call, but hopefully it was worth it for you guys, and feel free, obviously, to ask any of the group some technical questions if you have some issues as you progress through the different mod notes and also looking at our CMS-like webpage. So thank you very much for your participation, and good luck on all your implementation.